Digital euro will focus on personal use first. So we all know that CBDCs are coming whether we like it or not. And yes, CBDCs are 100% evil. But the euro is going to focus on personal use, not Web3. And they say that they are concerned that they need to have more utility than credit cards and cash for the CBDC to work. And they want a bill to be published early next year. And it's supposed to have 3 different use cases. And a quote from the article, the first stage will only enable payments initiated by people rather than allowing businesses to settle invoices, issue paychecks, or be used in a decentralized finance, EU officials said Wednesday. And I kind of feel like they want to make it like a Zelle or Venmo. Adam, give me your thoughts.
I mean, whenever we hear these types of authorities talking about these types of projects, really what you're hearing about is a lot of whataboutism, right? Essentially, these countries aren't using these types of technologies because they want to. They're using them because to the extent that they don't use them, is to the extent that they make themselves more vulnerable. Effectively, what you're seeing is you're seeing somebody improve a product and then the incumbent come out and say, yeah, well, okay, we acknowledge that there's some improvements here, but we've also instituted the improvements that are good, and they have all these things that are bad. And the things that they think are bad are actually typically the things that actually make a cryptocurrency or a decentralized system at all something that's valuable, which is notably decentralization, notably a lack of concentration of power, and notably a lack of somebody, regardless of how smart and well-intentioned they are, who has the ability to simply change the rules because they think that, well, given the current situations, it's good to change the rules. What we, I think, have learned over history, not just modern history, but going far, far back, is that these changes to monetary policy benefit people who are close to the to the power that's actually making those decisions, that's printing the new money, kind of whatever it is that you want, but everybody in society suffers. And so it seems like a good idea, but we have so much history that says that it's not. And the stuff that's going on in Europe right now, I mean, around the energy thing, like that is an incredible, crazy story that's going to get even crazier and illustrates this point entirely, which is that short-term considerations, governments always want the ability to respond to them, but they tend to actually make things worse rather than if they just let things happen the way that they were going to happen. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Will, what do you think?
I love the TED Talk. We should just keep rolling with that. Now, this came from the ECB yesterday. A manager at the ECB, which advises the EU, was talking about this. And it makes sense to have these first 3 sort of goals, peer-to-peer money. So just like basic transactions between family and friends, then just consumer to business. So if you're going to buy something as a small business, and the last one would be for government money spend. So if you're going to spend money from local government to another government, send it that way. Pretty simple, right? It's a good little test bed for this product. The confusing thing to me, though, is that these other applications are not going to be ready. They noted DeFi, they noted a few other things that cryptocurrencies are typically able to do. And it makes me wonder, like, how and why those things are not going to be available, right? Like, why can we not use DeFi with this central bank digital currency immediately? Like, what are like the walled gardens they're putting around this? And like on a technical front, how does that occur? If I'm thinking about this from like a crypto perspective, if I have an ERC20 token, I can flip that into any application I want as long as it's ERC20 compatible. And there's not a lot of walled gardens there. So the ECB is going to have to put up some of those things, and that's going to make it harder to use. And it's also going to hurt adoption of it, right? So if my first use case is just sending money between friends and family, that's great, but the fact I can't use it for DeFi or I can't use it for any other financial purpose, that really narrows the reason for me to have it in my digital wallet. I'll probably go and stick with a private dollar or a private euro, which already exists and you can use across lots of different applications. Wendy, I'll give it back to you.
I think it's really interesting that they want to roll out the government stage last. Like, wouldn't you think that they would want to test it to make sure it works first, to make everything more transparent? And so the ivory towers could be like, wow, this works great. You guys should use it. Of course, they're not going to do that, though, because that means that everything they spend are going to be tracked. So this makes 100% why they're using the underdogs as a quote unquote experiment. And I don't like it. I think it's not good in any way, shape, or form. And I just also want to say that I used to be like kind of a champion for CBDC because I thought this is great. This is going to get more people involved in crypto. But then when I really started researching and seeing what they were going to do, I saw the Tornado Cash thing come out. I saw the censorship come out. When Adam was talking about all the different climate things, like imagine if you post a tweet that is something contradictory to what the powers that be want you to put out. they can simply just stop you from transacting. They can control your money. So I think it's a dangerous thing. I'm not with it. Only way I could potentially be with it is if they test it out on the government first.
So, I mean, I think that, so there's two things here. One, they haven't actually decided that they're going to do this yet. Like, we're talking about this as if this is happening, but it says explicitly in this report, and we've known for some time that they're investigating it. They haven't committed to anything. And again, that's kind of this stall tactic that we see over and over and over again, across these types of stories whenever it's involving the government, which is that they don't really want to do this. They're good with the system as it is. Like, it's not a problem for them the way that things work, where they lack transparency and, where they can basically just kind of do what they want and then pretend as if there are other causes when really it's monetary policy that's causing a lot of the issues in our world today. So there's an element there. And then the other side of it is that, again, like, when you're looking at these types of solutions, the incentives are just all wrong around these things. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they would do it in that way were they to do it, because their point isn't to create a functional system. Their point is to try and steal some thunder from systems that are actually better. And as a result of that, try and, capture some of the people who would otherwise go had they offered nothing at all. So I think that, again, like CBDCs, the nice part about them is that to the extent that they happen, they revealed themselves as being actually a terrible vehicle to do a lot of this stuff and sort of make the case for the more decentralized elements in the space. Again, like, this is not a common perspective. We're all pretty educated about this stuff at this point, but it's something that people wake up to when they come into conflict with the existing system, because that's how you understand that an alternative would actually be useful. So there's a lot of work still to do here. I continue to be very amused every time we see these big government agencies come out with this stuff, because it's such weak positioning, right? Like, these governments have so much power and they're so strong in so many ways. And yet when it comes to the currency and it comes to any sort of competitive pressure, they just collapse into themselves. And it's honestly a beautiful thing to see. So anybody have any comments, or shall we move on?
Well, really quick, Adam, before you talk about the next story, I just feel like they're just wasting people's time and money. And it's not their money, it's our money. And that's the unfortunate aspect about it. Like, it's literally a terrible, like, Shakespeare comedy or tragedy at this point. But anyways.
There's no joke about that. They're definitely wasting our time. And that is the point, it seems to me, at least, is to drag this out for as long as possible, because it maximizes the amount of time that they remain in power.